Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, I'm happy to have you here and I appreciate it. Today we are once again using up bits and pieces, because if you are anything like me, when I try out a technique, I tend to end up with, some trial pieces and some scrap pieces, and whilst I usually try and do these on thin copy paper, I ultimately end up getting a few that are extras on proper nice cardstock. Now I have some of those here. This is one from my technique with a gel plate and perfect pearls, and so I had so much fun with that technique. It was new to me. I have a video on that technique which you can see, and it creates these amazing results. Super fun. But anyhow, this is one of those leftover pieces, so it does have a pattern on there from a stencil, and I am deciding that maybe I want to make this like a tag sort of shape, but I want to take out the center of the tag. So I am just creating this a little bit freeform. I don't really have measurements. You can see that I have a card front over to the side of me, and I am just holding it up against that every now and then to make sure that it's going to be within those borders. And then I also just trim off some of the corners. I trim off one corner and then turn it around so it's backwards and pop it in the other corner, and that way I get them looking identical. Now I also have this scrap here, and I don't really like the fact that it's just got, a little bit of blue on the back, a half bit of blue on the back, but I want to show you that we can use those pieces too. So hopefully this just inspires you to use up some of those pieces. And I know that you can also die cut out of these and use these scraps as layers. There are crafters out there who do that and use them, but I feel like, they can be more than that. We can make them actual something. Now for this one here, I am going to take my little sharp pointed scissors and start a hole, but I'm actually going to rip it. I want that ripped technique. I want the look. I want that, rough edge. You absolutely could just take an oval die shape or a star or a moon or anything you want to out of the center here. Or even just use your trimmer to cut a plain square or rectangle is grand. But I'm just going to do a rip. And then what I do is I generally just go around and I just slowly rip. And I rip a bit more and I rip a bit more. Don't try and do it all in one swoop, because it's okay to come back in and get another one. Now I am tearing it towards me so that I get those beautiful white edges that I want to ink up later on. And I want that look, so that's specifically why I tore the paper in that direction. Now I promise at the moment this looks, it's going to come along good, I promise. And we're going to make two different kinds here. So I am going to speed through this one. You saw me do the first one, and essentially it is the same process. Remember, this has the sort of scrap blue on the back, but we're just using this as plain and good old cardstock, because actually it has two sides, so let's make good use of that fact. And so this one here is they're going to be slightly different looks. One's going to be a little bit more, floral and fancy, and one's going to be a bit more grungy and vintagey. That was my sort of original thinking. Now I'm just taking some navy ink here, and this is where I really want to ink up those inside exposed pieces of white cardstock. So this is just a nice dark sort of dye ink. This is the Gina K in the navy, and I'm going to go around the edges, and I'm going to most importantly catch that white around the inside of our ripped torn edge. So that is the first one, and then we are actually going to add a couple of little sort of pieces, a little bit of interest. Now, using what I have to hand in my stash, this is the aall&create SkyCrossed Paradise. But what I love in this die set is these little, I call them thingy-majigs, little do-wats, little bits and pieces that are just sort of, accents, they're elements, I don't know what they are, but these are just little thingamajigs that I pop on to add interest. Now, you may have other dies that do this. You may have a stencil that you could put some nice white texture paste through. You could draw these on with a gel pen. You could have a stamp that is like this, and you could white heat emboss it. Of course, the options are endless, as always, and I like to give you as many options as I can, whilst following a similar look to what I have here and what I'm creating. But I love to give you other options, because it truly is most important to me that we use what what we have and what we've chosen to invest in. And so that is what this channel is all about and will always continue to be about. Now for the other one here, I'm going to take, this is a waffle flower mini stencil mat. That's what I do my inking on, and this I'm just putting down some a couple of different inks. They are mainly sort of really light pinks, I guess. One is Spun Sugar, one is Tattered Rose, and I'm using the Distress Oxides just because that's what I have, and I am just going to sort of dip my tag, I guess you could call it, into those colors. Now I actually want this to be quite subtle, so although this looks very light at the moment, you know, it's going to stand out nicely and it's going to work well. I just want it to be quite subtle, whereas the other one is, you know, quite blue. I am just going to heat dry this so that I can keep going on with the next thing, and once it feels, you know, relatively dry, I'm going to stick some more of those elements on that I had before, just exactly the same ones. There is plenty in that little die set. There is 14 different dies in there, so there is a good amount of little, you know, things that I can pop on there. As I said, there are lots of different elements that you could add on at this point. Even some like scripty or some rub-ons would be brilliant. Some nice bright white, something that just contrasts nicely and just adds something extra to what is otherwise an obviously plain tag. But of course we're going to add some things in the center and some bits and pieces, so it's not going to be as plain as this. But this was just a really fun, nice you know, card making session that I had, and I really enjoyed it, and I didn't have any big purpose except for to use up some of those sheets of cardstock that just sort of sit on my desk, and I feel too guilty to throw them out, and sometimes I get a pile of them and I don't want to wait to do the die cutting to layer things up. Does anyone else feel like that you sort of feel the guilt when you throw something out or when you discard it? Anyhow, that's how I was feeling, so I wanted a project to use them up. So I am going to put just a little bit of pink ink. This might be the worn lipstick, anything that's just a little fraction darker than what I have got around the outside there, just so it gives it a nice border around the outside and catching those beautiful ripped edges that we created in the center. Now at this point I am thinking about the backgrounds, and this is also actually from aall&create. They have an amazing array of stencils and stamps and dies, but yeah, just some that are really eye-catching. This is the LOTZA dots stencil, and so I'm going to use this with some Ranger opaque matte texture paste, and this is going to go on my card base. Now I do want the sort of the tag. I don't love calling it that because I don't feel like it's a tag, but I guess that's the sort of shape that I've gone for, and so that's going to be the main focal point. But I do want a little bit of interest and a little bit of texture. Now I absolutely could have used an embossing folder that would have created some nice texture in the background, but I just wanted some not all over texture, just some little, you know, bits and pieces. Then I have this gorgeous rub-on that I have had put aside for ages I wanted to use, and that is what I'm going to put in the center of the first tag. So I sort of line it up, just hold it in place so that I know that it's going to be roughly centered when I go to put the tag shape on in the background. But these rub-ons are super easy, and it just needs a quick little press down. There are so many amazing rub-ons out there, and I definitely think it's something that people are a little bit unsure of. They have come a long way in quality, and they are absolutely excellent now. So I don't know, this is a really old one that's been in my drawer because I will admit I've been hoarding these ones, but I'll see if I can link some down below that are somewhat similar that you could use. Then I decided to put the tag down nice and flat. No dimension needed here. The tag speaks for itself and it's absolutely beautiful as is. But while that dries and sort of, you know, gets all set into place, I'm going to move on to the other one. Now, any of the supplies, I will try and list them in the captions below this YouTube video, and they will be listed there for a couple of different shops. that you can go and shop with. And also, don't forget to go and check out my website. It is www.natashafooteCreative.com. I have just launched a brand new card making class, which I am so excited to finally bring to you. It is called Bursting Brilliance. I'm very excited. So head on over there and check out that as well. Now this here, again, these are really old. I've been having a big clean out, and so I found these. These are from Studio Light. I think they're called Paper Elements, Grunge Elements from the Grunge collection. They remind me of the Tim Holtz ones, but this is a brand new package. I don't know if I'll be able to link these, but they seem similar. They do have some, a couple of different sizes of the different, boys and girls and things, and I thought that would be nice to maybe pop in this blue one. Now I've picked out a few elements from that, and then I'm also going to add just the same stencil because I'm not about getting out any more supplies and things than I already have, and if I'm going to wash the stencil I may as well use it well. And this is going to be the Simon Says Stamp Fog cardstock. I got these as some pre-scored card bases just for when I wanted something a little bit different or a little bit different colour. So they are going to come in handy now just because the other one was really stark white and I felt like I would go with just a subtle change in card base colour. And then I'm just seeing how I would like everything to fit here. This fern is a little bit big for what I need, so I'm going to cut it down, but actually I can keep that other fern. It's almost like a double-ended one, so I can definitely use the other bit later on. And I've got this sweet little girl to pop on here as well. Now I actually left off sentiments off the two of these just because I felt like I could either add them later or they kind of just don't need it. I often finding more often that cards with sentiments are becoming more popular when people are choosing them, and also I think when you pop on a sentiment it sort of narrows their use sometimes. So sometimes I prefer to leave them off. Sometimes they're absolutely lovely and you can just sort of envisage where you want to go with it, and that's really nice to be able to do. And then sometimes they just don't need them, and that's okay too. So I did pop this one up on some foam tape, but just to give it that little bit of dimension. And then there's a couple of little butterflies there that are all from the same little paper kit. They had foliage, it had botanicals, it had the people, the girls, the boys, the women, and then butterflies, and yeah, quite a nice little set actually. But this one is going to finish up this card as well. So this was super simple. I really like how these turned out, and more importantly, it got another sheet of cardstock off my desk that I didn't have to discard. So I hope that you have enjoyed this. Let me know what you think of these couple of cards I have made today. Let me know about, do you ever have that guilt factor of, I shouldn't be throwing this out, but I don't really know what to do with it and it's going to, clutter up my space? Let me know, and also let me know what you do with them. What do you choose to do with them? Do you just die cut or do you turn them into specific things? Anyway, thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.